Okay, we got it. Is this okay?
Oh, yeah. Oh, you look beautiful, yeah. Well, we sort
That's
of
right.
go together. I can put on my little jacket and we'll be the same color.
Flatter the interviewer. It always works.
That's perfect. Perfect, yeah.
Thank you.
Wait, is it recording already? Oh.
Hello, I'm Diana Belchase, and I'm here with historical author, bar none, Sally Mackenzie, who has been a delightful friend and has a wonderful, wonderful series. Actually, 2 series now.
2 series, right.
And started off with the very racy Get Naked with Sally Mackenzie series. I guess the Naked Duke was the first one?
The Naked Duke was the first book, right.
So tell us about that series, and then we'll talk about the new stuff.
Well, the Naked Duke series, the Naked Nobility, is 7 books and 3 novellas. And they're actually, those novellas came out in anthologies, but they're going to start bringing them out, no, I guess it's 2 novellas. They're bringing them out as e-novellas starting in November, I guess they'll be, so people can get just the Naked series if they want to.
And which publisher is this with?
Kensington.
Okay.
And it just sort of grew. It wasn't really planned, so I think I didn't make any mistakes. But the first 3 books are 3 friends, and the sister of the heroine from the second book, I think, was really interesting to me, so she became the heroine of the 4th book, and I think the hero of that book is a friend of somebody else, but he comes from a large family, and so I did some of the family, but we had sort of run out of titles. You know, I have the Naked Baron, you can't really have the Naked Baronet, too. I mean, it gets a little confusing.
So tell us some of the, how many are there, and tell us some of the names.
There are 7 books: the Naked Duke, the Naked Marquess, the Naked Earl, the Naked Gentleman, the Naked Baron, the Naked Viscount, and the Naked King. And the novellas are the Naked Laird and the Naked Prince. So.
And I have enjoyed them all. They're really a lot of fun, where your heroes get themselves in the most awful predicaments. And you know, when you're naked in a historical, it usually ends up in marriage.
Which is a good thing. I like marriage. Marriage is good. Yeah.
Which is a good thing as long as it's to the right girl, right?
Oh, right. Yes, definitely.
And you also have a lot of scheming women who are trying to get them in compromising situations, and so your heroes end up getting in compromising situations with other heroines just to get out of the first one, right?
Right. Well, yeah, that's sort of a trope for the Regency romances. Is the London marriage mart, where women didn't have careers, so they really were looking for husbands, and that's part of the fun of writing Regencies, is getting that whole the social upper crust there, and all the machinations and the rules, and playing with that. So you couldn't do that in a contemporary because you don't have the same kind of constraints. So,
But I understand some of this nakedness has gotten you into trouble with your family.
well, I have 4 sons, and my husband is a corporate attorney.
Oh dear.
And I didn't sell my first book until I turned 50. So, I mean, my husband married me knowing I always wanted to be a writer, but I met him at law school. I'm a law school dropout. And I worked for the federal government. I wrote regulations. And then I was home with the kids. So
They must have been pretty racy regulations.
yeah, the school nutrition program. I did get into trouble. What was it? It was ketchup is a vegetable. That was a hot item. That was my reg. Ketchup is a vegetable. So anyway, not my idea. There's a long story which I won't go into about that. So he was very happy for me when I sold. I really started getting back to writing when my oldest son was getting ready to go to college, and I thought, well, okay, I have to decide what I want to be when I grow up. I've always wanted to write. If I don't do that now, it's time to decide and move on. And I realized how much work I had put into writing over the years, and I did a lot of volunteer writing, but you know, fiction writing is different than writing regulations. Though sometimes people say regulations are fiction, but in any event.
So what happened? Tell me.
So the very first book, you get a solicitation cover, what the cover looks like. And so the first book is called The Naked Duke, and they had a Halloween costume at their work. I think he might have been the boss then, I don't know. But in any event,
This is your husband's work?
My husband's work.
Oh, so a very stuffy law party, and they're having a party.
Corporate,
Okay.
Yes. And but some of the people got really into this. They came in costume, and there was one woman that had this wonderful costume.
So it's a Halloween party.
It's a Halloween party. He entered himself in the horror category, and his costume was my cover flat, and he explained the story, and he won. So he felt a little bit bad because here this woman had this wonderful costume, but she got grand prize or something, so it was okay.
So a lawyer wearing a suit who has a wife who's written a romance novel and brings the title of the romance novel wins the horror category.
Right.
Life is isn't always fair, is it?
But you know, there are a lot of lawyers that want to be authors, so, and a lot of romance writers are former lawyers, so.
Yes, they are.
Right.
It makes me wonder what's going on in their minds when they're doing all the contracts. That we have so many romance authors that write.
Well, I went to law school partly because I was an English major, and what do you do as an English major? And I liked working with words, and you don't just go and get a job as a romance novelist. You have to have a certain, it's sort of an act of bravery to say, okay, or craziness, that's possible too, where you can go and you can write stuff and you don't have a salary coming in, you don't really know what's going to happen.
So tell me, what happened at your son's wedding?
The son's wedding. Let me think. What happened at my son's wedding?
I heard that they read.
Oh
something.
no! This was at. All four of my boys have been mortified in different ways by my book. So the oldest son, who is married, and he was married at the time, went to a New Year's Eve party.
Oh, New Year's Eve.
And his friends, who, backing up, all four boys were at the same Jesuit, all-male Catholic high school. I was PTA president for a while. So there was no hiding. They all knew who I was, and they all, so he goes to this Halloween party, or New Year's party, and some of the girls think it'd be fun to download, on their cell phones, my book and read the good parts. So he had to leave the room, he and his wife. No, none of my husband, my brother, my sons, even my daughters-in-law, they don't read my books. So,
well, that's a great shame because Sally's books are wonderful. Tell me, with historicals, I see that there is a trend where some historicals keep very, very much to the facts, and some historicals are starting to take certain liberties with the facts of the day. Where do you stand on that? And
well, I'm scared to death of what I call the Regency police. If you get something wrong, or even if you get something that's really not wrong, but they think it's wrong, you've offended some people because we are dealing with this time period did exist. It's not like. In fact, after I sold the first book, I thought, I'd like to go write fantasy because I can make that all up. So I try actually to get things right. I don't bring in historical figures because I try to write what I wanted to read, and I'm not. That's too scary to me. I don't want to bring in historical figures. They don't fit into my kind of plots. I do have a bad habit of. My very first book, I used the word okay about 4 times, and okay is not okay because okay didn't come into the language until like mid-1800s, and people know that. So I have my OED on my laptop opened up, and I try to check when words came in. But even a word that is used today might have been used then, but in a different way. So you can't go too crazy about this because we are writing for 21st century people. So I try to get things right. But I don't always get them right. But usually they're honest mistakes,
So you think it's important to try to get the facts right rather than reinventing things?
I think so. I mean, it depends if you're moving the date of something a little bit, but you got to read and see, and they're using cell phones. That's not going to work. So make that a alternate universe kind of story. So I think because people come to it with looking for some kind of historical flavor. Now, some people tell me my books really read more like contemporaries because I don't have. Some people say, they never use contractions. But how do we know they didn't use contractions back then?
Oh.
So you can take it. There's a continuum. You can take it to the sort of crazies. So people that are purists may not enjoy my books as more. That people just enjoy the story. I like Georgette Heyer was one of my favorites growing up, and I try to. She's my inspiration. I try to think
she
of
used contractions all the time.
Yeah. So I try to think of that I'm Georgette Heyer with sex, but I'm probably fooling myself on that. But I like that's my inspiration.
What is new? What is in this new series?
Well, the new series is called the Duchess of Love series, and it starts off with a novella that is a Rita finalist.
Yay!
And also, I just found out is a National Reader's Choice finalist. Just got that email, yeah. And then and then it's the story of the Duchess's 3 sons. Now, when I first proposed this book, the Duchess was going to find her love interest. But then, I think it was my agent said, why don't you write the novella about how the Duchess met the Duke? But after I wrote that, I couldn't kill the Duke off. So there's a little sub-story going through it about the Duchess and the Duke relationship. But she's a matchmaker, but she can't really make the matches for her 3 sons.
Oh.
The first one's a widower, that's Betty Lord Ned. The second one is the youngest son. The third one that I just turned in, that'll be out in March, is the oldest son, the heir, and he's estranged from his wife. They've been married for 8 years. So I thought why they were estranged would come to me by the time I got to the third book. I had to do a lot of pre-writing on that book to figure out why did I put myself in this, box here, but.
Well, knowing you, it's going to resolve itself beautifully, and I can't wait to read them. So anyway, thank you for sitting down with me.
Well, thank you
and
for having
being
me.
here. So I'm Diana Belchase, and I'm here with the delightful Sally Mackenzie, and keep reading.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
Yeah, my hair's probably in front of my face.